Let us stand together.
Yeah. The cry from the ghetto, and the way on them like a never somebody now. Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we got to try. Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we got to try.
So why we allow this administration to erode our democracy? This is a democratic society, and therefore every creed and race must find an equal place.
Yeah, Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we got to try. Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we got to try.
So I am calling on every youth, I am calling on every citizen. Let us unite and save Trinidad and Tobago. For far too long we have been exploited. For far too long we have been neglected. The time has come where we must stand united in order to save our country. Yes, my brothers and my sisters.
Yeah, Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we got to try. Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we got to try.
And let us fight to defend our democracy in this country. Let us stand together.
Yeah. The cry from the ghetto, and the way on them like a never somebody now. Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we got to try. Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we got to try.
So why we allow this administration to erode our democracy? This is a democratic society, and therefore every creed and race must find an equal place.
Yeah, Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we got to try. Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we got to try.
So I am calling on every youth, I am calling on every citizen. Let us unite and save Trinidad and Tobago. For far too long we have been exploited. For far too long we have been neglected. The time has come where we must stand united in order to save our country. Yes, my brothers and my sisters.
Yeah, Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we got to try. Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we got to try.
And let us fight to defend our democracy in this country. Let us stand together.
Yeah. The cry from the ghetto, and the way on them like a never somebody now. Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we got to try. Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we got to try.
So why we allow this administration to erode democratic society, and therefore every creed and race must find an equal place.
Yeah, Victor vibes. If you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we gotta try. Victor vibes. If you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we gotta try.
So I am calling on every youth, I am calling on every citizen. Let us unite and save Trinidad and Tobago. For far too long we have been exploited. For far too long we have been neglected. The time has come where we must stand united in order to save our country. Yes, my brothers and my sisters.
Yeah, Victor vibes. If you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we gotta try. Victor vibes. If you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we gotta try.
And let us fight to defend our democracy in this country. Let us stand together.
Yeah. We cry from together. And the way on them, like a little devil, somebody now. Victor vibes. If you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we gotta try. Victor vibes. If you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we gotta try.
So why we allow this administration to erode our democracy? This is a democratic society, and therefore every creed and race must find an equal place.
Yeah, Victor vibes. If you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we gotta try. Victor vibes. If you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we gotta try.
So I am calling on every youth, I am calling on every citizen. Let us unite and save Trinidad and Tobago. For far too long we have been exploited. For far too long we have been neglected. The time has come where we must stand united in order to save our country. Yes, my brothers and my sisters.
Yeah, Victor vibes. If you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we gotta try. Victor vibes. If you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we gotta try.
And let us fight to defend our democracy in this country. Let us stand together.
Yeah. We cry from together. And the way on them, like a little devil, somebody now. Victor vibes. If you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we gotta try. Victor vibes. If you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we gotta try.
So why we allow this administration to erode our democracy? This is a democratic society, and therefore every creed and race must find an equal place.
Yeah, Victor vibes. If you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we gotta try. Victor vibes. If you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them know we gotta try.
So I am calling on every youth, I am calling on every citizen. Let us unite and save Trinidad and Tobago. For far too long we have been exploited. For far too long we have been neglected. The time has
we got to try to victimize. If you want to see a better life, yeah, shed your light. When the youth them, no, we got to try.
And let us fight to defend our democracy in this country. Let us stand together.
Yeah. We cry from together. And the way on them, like they don't care about somebody now.
DouglAR Politics. Of course, joining me in studio a little later, around 7:30, would be none other than attorney at law, the man himself, the original fighter, Kiel Tacklalsingh. Let me first welcome each and every one of you to the program this afternoon. Of course, you know this program is always about facts. We research, we investigate, we look at the information, we ensure that the information is authentic, and then we produce that information so that you would be able to have a better knowledge, a first-hand knowledge as to what is taking place within your country. So I see everybody beaten up on the 3D man, the dumb, dunce, and dotish. Everybody beating him. Licks like fire, licks like peas. And it's simply because it's his own fault. It's not to say that somebody don't like him. It's not to say that somebody envy him. I know for a fact that the worst Minister of National Security that we have had in the history of this country, I know that this minister beat him back badly. I know we had considered Martin Joseph as one of the worst. And what we are seeing today is that this 3D man beat Martin Joseph bad for first place.
Boy, Victor, your fans have asked me not to put up that man ugly picture, boy. So you wouldn't see me putting up that sleepy, ugly looking picture. People say they just want to see that ugly man.
Well, just put 3Ds, they're going to know what it means. Once they put 3Ds, they know what it means. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to those of you who already tune in, those of you who probably getting your coffee. Stay tuned. A lot of activities, a lot of information. So the Judicial School. I saw Heinz with a whole battalion of police going up to Judicial School to convince the people of this country that it's safe. I also hearing about closing and removing the school. That is something I don't want to believe. Because if the National Security Minister and this government reach the point of wanting to relocate a school because of criminal activities, within that district, then it sends a message loud and clear to the criminal element that they are in charge. And if this be the case, ladies and gentlemen, I am now wondering how many schools would have to be relocated because of the criminal intent within the perimeters, within those districts. You see, that 3D man who probably stained that white shirt that he have on, probably stained from the inside. Because when your heart is of the nature of the heart of that individual, I am telling you that everything would be tainted. Every ministry that 3D put his hand on, where he served as a junior minister, not enabling himself to elevate to the standard of being a full minister throughout the rank and file of the PNM, and now handing on a silver platter a very important ministry as national security by an incompetent ludicrous prime minister. Oh Lord, Archie, you didn't bong to do me that yet. You didn't bong to do me that yet. But handing Hines on a platter a ministry of national security. Leave them right there for me, Archie, don't move them. While Hines could have never elevated himself to the point where he could have controlled a ministry throughout his career. Every ministry that Hines were given the opportunity to be a junior minister fail. Every ministry. But when you establish a Cosa Nostra, then what you will do is to pick individuals who have proven themselves incompetent to handle a ministry, but competent to keep a secret. I want to ask Fitzgerald Hines, the 3D man, if he is presently holding several secrets for anybody who sits in government, including Keith Scotland. I want to ask Mr. 3D if he is in possession of several secrets in relation to any member of government, including Keith Scotland. You see, when Richie Spice tell us that the world is a cycle, I think the members of the PNM never pay attention to understand what goes wrong will eventually comes around. I want to ask Minister Hines today, as the National Security Minister, the man who is charged with the responsibility of the National Security Ministry, a man who ought to have all the apparatus of the police service under his purview. A man who advised Jacob if he have any knowledge as to who is the short, stocky Rasta man that the two little boys identify, I am asking the minister if he knows or if he have any information on how and why these two young boys died. And if you have any information, who is the short, stocky Rastaman that was identified in that matter? I am asking the minister that question here this afternoon. And I want to ask Keith Scotland to tell this country how long he was representing Vince Nelson. I catch you lady.
There is a serious conflict of interest in our partner.
I catch them
a
there.
serious conflict, I can't understand man in the UNC getting locked up for $500 and these people breaking all kind of law. How could a member of the government take on a client against the government, sitting with inside information, sitting in a cabinet that will approve the money to pay him to represent that man against the state? So it come like he is the state and he fighting against the state.
So let me back up. I want to ask Fitzgerald Hines if he received any information, if he knows who is the short, stocky dreadlocks that was identified by the two youths who were killed. I want to ask Fitzgerald Hines if he have any information as to why these two youths were killed. And I want to ask Keith Scotland how long he was representing Vincent Nelson. Hear my question for Hines again. I'm asking Hines if he knows the short, stocky dreadlocks that was identified by the two little boys who were murdered. I'm asking Hines if he have any information as to why they were murdered. And I'm asking Keith Scotland how long he was representing Vincent Nelson. You see, I want to tell you something. I want to tell you something here this evening. Fitzgerald Hines said to you that the shooting in Rose Hill School was 200 meters away and the children weren't in any present or serious danger. 200 meters away. With whatever ammunition that was firing from those guns, whether it was 7.62 or 5.4, whatever. The children wasn't in no danger. The teacher was misleading. But guess what? The teacher was misleading. The children wasn't in no danger while shots was firing. While shots was firing up the hill, down the hill, sideways, backways, crossways, they weren't in no danger. But when no shots When no shots is firing, he take a whole battery of police and soldiers to go up there. When shots firing, he tell you that the children wasn't in no danger. Gunshot firing, pam, 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 pam. He said no danger. Teacher, exaggerated. But no shots in firing. But he going up there with a whole battery of police and soldiers. IATF, CID, Special Forces. He carrying everybody, no shots in firing, you know. But he telling you why gunshot firing that your children 200 meters away, but them wasn't in no danger. Nothing could have happened. They were safe. Teacher, exaggerated. When I tell you people that all have a 3D man, as all Minister of National Security, dumb, dunce, and dotish, 3 Ds. Or they didn't want to believe me. Or they didn't want to believe me. When you hear the ballistic specialists spoke on the level and the level of threat as a result of shots firing 200 meters away. But this man tell all you that everything was cool. All the teacher exaggerated the whole fact of the matter. And the train wasn't in no danger. And all your parents sit down and accept that. I want to ask all the parents something. That is all the stepchildren, what? That is not all the children, that is all the stepchildren. Because if that is all your children, and all you have confidence in what this idiot said, then something wrong with all you. That have to be all the stepchildren. And real men and real women does look after the interests of the stepchild. So if there is only real children that will carry for 9 months, 7 months, in some cases 8 months, worst case scenario 6 months, and all you bear the pain and agony to bring that child, to breastfeed that child, to bottle feed that child, to make whatever sacrifice, to send that child to school. When all you can get laptop, when all you can get textbook, in some cases all you can even get school feeding, all you can buy uniform. Some only have to do everything possible to send that child to school. Because some of them man gone, pressure take them, they gone. But mothers being what they are, will go to the length and breadth to put that child in a class. And when you put that child in a class, and when you would expect that your children would be learning and your children would be safe, you understand that this kind of activity taking place, and according to Hines, on more than one occasion, and you parents and get up and call for the resignation of Fitzgerald Hines, then something wrong with all you. You parents and get up after this idiot spoke into your hearing all this idiotic talk, and all you in get up and demand that this idiot go, then something wrong with all you. This is all your children. This is something that all you bring pain, all you bear pain to bring in the world. All you do everything to nurture them children. And when you send them, and you will expect that your environment would be safe because your money paying that. And your money enrich that, and your money give that all them security details wrong that, and your money paying for 2 security to everyone at that child. If they go in the mall, 2 security. They go in the urinal, 2 security. They sit down in a car, 2 security. They go by KFC, 2 security. They go in the market, 2 security. But you sending your children to school, while that protected and that family protected, over your taxpayer dollar, you now accepting that, telling you that 200 safe for your child. When 200 away with one of them AR-15, one shot could kill 15 children. But you, the parent, you have so much confidence, and you believe so much into that even though your child could have died, and that tell you your child couldn't dead, you believe that. And that is what Rowley and the rest of the PNM continue to do to you. They are convincing you that what you are experiencing is not real. They are convincing you that when you're hungry and your belly boiling and you cannot eat a meal, they are convincing you that that is just a delusion. You ain't really hungry. When you cannot buy a piece of clothes and you can't put gas in your car, according to the Jamaican, gas in your car me buy, they convincing you that your car ain't shut down. You're walking with your little red pan by the gas station, and you're full in your red pan, but you're still convinced you ain't full in it. And then you jump in a taxi or you hike a ride, and you go and meet your vehicle wherever it is, if the bandit didn't go with it, or if they didn't take all the 4 tire. And you open and you throw in your gas, and man passing and watching you and laughing and blowing the horn. What happened, boy? You still convincing yourself that your gas tank wasn't empty. That is what Keith Rowley and Hines and Stuart Young and Alwari and Limo and Beckers and Robinson Regis and Norbreaker and Keith Scotland, all of them, they are able to convince you that what you are going through is not real. And you the individual, you believing that you not seeing trouble, that everything is good. You can't eat, but you believe in your belly full. You can't pay a bill, but you believe in the bill pay. They cut your electricity, but you believe in, you're still passing and putting on the switch. And you're still feeling it a light. The light that you're feeling it have is the light that the PNM put on all you. Take it real, because it's real. This is a real world. You are believing what these people are saying to you, even when you know for a fact that what they are saying is not the truth. I often try to understand the behavior of the people who were enslaved. I often try to understand how can one man controls so many slaves, young, strong muscle men, men with power. Big, strong men looking like Keith Scotland. Probably more pretty or more handsome than him. But I often wonder and stretch my imagination to try to understand, how could one man or two men or three or four controls 25 strong, young African men? I often wonder and try to understand, what was the mental of these individuals? And then I could not understand, I cannot even imagine myself living in slavery back then. They would have long execute me. Long gone execute me. But today, ladies and gentlemen, I live to see individuals putting in shackles 1 point whatever million people. Today I am seeing one prime minister with 20 others who I consider to be the African slave masters and men and women, putting you 1 point whatever million. back to the days when you were controlled, your ancestors were controlled by the European slave masters. 1.4 million people. Actually, are you ready for them calls yet? 1.4 million people. One prime minister. And 20 black Europeans, putting you as 1.4 million back in slavery. And today I am now understanding why a few European slave masters was able to control hundreds of thousands of slaves. You know why? Because while we were big and strong and muscular in stature, we were weak in our mental capacity. They were weak in their minds. That though they were strong and powerful and muscular, their mentals were weak and their mentals were enslaved. And when you enslave the mentals of an individual, then your strength is also in slavery. Your body is enslaved. Your thinking is enslaved. Your behavior is enslaved. And today I am seeing in Trinidad and Tobago where you are allowing a government to enslave you. Because they first enslave your mental capacity. So why are you big and strong? You are weak. Because a man's strength is not in his muscle, but a man's strength is within his mind. And when you allow a prime minister, when you allow a prime minister to enslave your mind, then he is able to control you as how Keith Rowley controls this society. Even though you are big and strong, you have allowed the PNM to brainwash you. You have allowed the PNM to captivate your minds. Because they first brainwash you with the separation, with the discrimination, with the racial discrimination. So they said to you that, look, you are ours. You are of my kind. You are black like me. Your texture is as mine. And we ought to stand together. And yet while they pressure you and while they remove your sustenance, you still jump and shout and stand up and say, I am a black man. But you are enslaved. That is what they are doing to you. So no longer you see things clearly. I wonder how these Europeans could have controlled this big battalion of strong African people. But today when I look in Trinidad, I am seeing it's the same mechanism that is being used to control you as the African people in this country. You are strong, but you are weak mentally. Your body big, muscular, but you are weak because you would not stand up for what is right. allow Hines. You allow Rowley. You allow Brian Manning. You allow Penelope Beckers. You allow Norbreaker. You allow all these individuals to utilize and to captivate your minds. So no longer you can stand for what is right. No longer you are able to speak out against what is going on. No longer you will stand up and say enough is enough. So hear your slogan. They enshrine in your mind. Great is the PNM. You are eating dirt, but yet you cry, great is the PNM. You have no homes, but you cry, great is the PNM. You cannot send your children to school, but you cry, great is the PNM. Why don't you stand up and be great? Why can't you stand up and be great by standing for what is right? You see, you in this country, you are the problem. You believe Keith Rowley is the problem? You feel Beckers and Manning and Young and Alwari and Limo and them is the problem? They are not the problem. You are the problem. You, the 1.4 million people in this country, you are the problem. You know why? Sometimes I feel sorry for this country. And not for you, some of the senior folks, you know. I feel sorry for the youths, the young ones, the children who had to lie down on the ground in that classroom. They are the ones I'm sorry for, because listen what happening. When this PNM finish with this country, you eating grass, they will eat the dirt, but their children will have absolutely nothing to eat, and it will all be your fault while you lie in the grave. While you are in the grave, I trust and hope that in the spiritual realm that you will have no rest, because you are conspiring to the demise of the future generation, your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. You are conspiring with a government to their demise. Don't have a problem with me. I am just a messenger that giving you the truth without clothes. The truth don't need no makeup, no mascara. The truth don't need nothing but the truth. And you have allowed this government to utilize and to abuse and to do everything that is contrary to good governance. And you do nothing. We have a president. We have a president in this country. As I invite my good friend, Attorney Kiel Tacklalsingh, to come to the head table, we have a president in this country who blatantly breached the Constitution. And you, the people of this country, you did absolutely nothing about it. We have a prime minister who conspire with a chairman of the Police Service Commission and mash up a whole independent institution. And you, the people of this country, you did absolutely nothing about it. What you fail to realize is that once you allow the government the leeway to mash up an independent independent institution. What you did not understand is that that government will soon put its hand into every independent institution in this country, as this government has done, and today we are without any. We are without any. I want you to name one institution in this country that is independent. Come in, Brother Carl. None other than the fighter Kiel Tacklalsingh, who will continue to fight for the poor, the oppressed, and to fight on your behalf. Brother, welcome to the program. He is no stranger to this program.
Thank you very much for having me again.
Top. No, quite up here.
Check.
Good?
Yes, so thank you very much for having me on. No bigger compliment, Victor, than for you to call me a fighter. No bigger compliment I think I could receive in my profession or any other accolade than you calling me a fighter here this afternoon.
A fighter. But I'm looking at the independent institution in this country.
Which one? Because I don't think any exists. But go ahead, tell me.
And I'm trying to ask Trinidad and Tobago to identify to us one independent institution. One institution that is not contaminated.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm speaking about from the speaker, the chair. I'm speaking about the president office. I'm speaking about the judiciary. I'm speaking about the law association. I'm speaking about the EBC. I'm speaking about any institution in this country. Brother, I want you to tell Trinidad and Tobago what is the consequence when we doesn't hold our government accountable for their action.
Well, I think the first question you have to ask is, why do we need independent institutions in a democracy, in a republic, in a country? And that is because you want to avoid the concentration of power in a few hands.
Right.
Because when you have the concentration of power only residing in a few hands, then essentially what you have is dictatorship, communism, totalitarianism, and every other form of government which has been totally deprecated by history. Mm-hmm. If history has taught us anything, is that anytime you have the concentration of power, governmental power, decision-making power, bureaucratic power, it doesn't matter. Anytime you have the concentration of power only in the hands of a few, you are always on your road to doom, gloom, mass murder, mass death, propaganda, Nazism, communism. The worst of history has ever had to offer mankind is when independent institutions fail. And that is why independent institutions are important in a country. In Trinidad and Tobago, you would have many independent institutions, many independent institutions, like Parliament, like the judiciary, all of those things. But if it is those independent institutions fail you, then your country is on the road to, well, dictatorship, as I said.
But what choice do we have as citizens when we are seeing the contamination, the interference, and the failure of these independent institutions? What choice we have?
I think what you are doing, I think what everybody else is in our party is doing, I think what most right-thinking citizens are doing. You have to stand up, you have to speak out, you have to march, you have to protest, you have to do all of these things to ensure that you hold these institutions to account and ensure that these institutions remain independent. They have to fight for it. I mean, the Law Association is a perfect example. One thought they were independent, they were silent. We took them kicking and dragging. Everybody called upon to make them come up with a statement, and eventually they made a statement. Now, we may not be happy with the full content of the statement. Some thought they could have gone further, but at least they said something, which is important. And every other institution, you have to drag that way. The president's office is another one. We had the president, as you said, essentially taking part in an unconstitutional process, facilitating the prime minister coming to her office to remove a merit list, undermine the process for appointing a commissioner of police, right? And we took her to Parliament. We tried to have a motion. Now, even though it wasn't heard and it wasn't successful, the country has essentially rejected that president now. She has to be the most rejected and unpopular president this country has ever seen. And I want to tell you that she will have to bat in her crease, because I think she's lost all moral authority or weight to give any opinion of any consequence. She went to the opening of Parliament recently and she wanted to buff people. Nobody took her on. I don't think anybody in the country took her on. And that's the point. We as citizens have to continue to hold these independent institutions to account. Like Parliament, as you said, the speakers, well, the presiding officers are probably the worst. I want to put that on record. The presiding officers of both houses of Parliament, probably the worst I have seen in the Commonwealth. They don't allow debate. They don't allow questions. They don't allow discussion. You can't talk. The chamber must be like a tea party. If you ever saw the Parliament in Britain or anywhere else in the world, how boisterous and vocal people are there. What we have there is worse than a primary school classroom. You know, like everybody, you have to put up your hand to speak. The next thing they're going to tell you is stand up, arms out, arms up, arms down, and sit down and sleep.
Well, I think we're on that road already. I think that is what the Prime Minister is doing.
Yes.
But you see, we end up between a rock. People that say a rock and a hard place, but I feel we end up between a whole bunch of rocks.
Yeah.
Because when you would expect that the police service, which as far as I am concerned, ought to be more independent than the meaning of the word.
Yes.
And when we are at the point where we are seeing a commissioner or acting commissioner, foot and foot, length and breadth, with the 3D man, dumb, dunce, and dotish, and from where I sit, I am seeing that we are at the place where it appears as though that the acting commissioner of police takes his instructions from the politician and not from the police service regulation.
Well, it really seems to me that the acting commissioner of police is not acting his role. He is the acting commissioner of police. He has to be independent. But I see him, the next thing I think I'm going to see him is carrying the Minister of National Security's briefcase. He's always walking with him. Anytime he has an appearance, he's there. That is not your job. If the Minister of National Security invites you to an event as the Commissioner of Police, the first thing you have to look at is your diary.
Right.
See what it is going on, what you have to do, what crime fighting initiatives you are taking on board, what command you have to do, which police officers you have to visit, which station you have to visit to ensure that that they're doing their job. And then if you have spare time, you facilitate politicians, if at all. Mm-hmm. But this acting commissioner, he seems to be on a PR drive. He wants to do press conferences, media. I saw him show up at the school there, and what I found strange is that the minister now is coming to tell us that he interviewed witnesses, right? That he went out there and he interviewed people, and he got back and he ascertained that the shots outside that school was 200 meters away. That's not his job. That is the job of the Commissioner of Police, yet the Commissioner of Police is there to receive him. What he should have been doing is ensuring that the Minister of National Security is not interfering with his crime scene, getting his police officer to investigate where the shots come from, look for eyewitnesses, determine who is there, right, and then decide what came out of that. Don't let the minister come to the media to tell us that there was 200 shots away and in the minister's opinion, it was safe. We don't care about the minister's opinion. We care about your opinion as the Commissioner of Police. You have to be independent. You have to do independent investigations, or else it makes absolutely no sense. You're not being independent.
So where do we go from here? Because we are seeing tangible before our eyes that the acting commissioner of police is, and this wasn't the first time, I think when the child gets shot in the savannah,
yes,
I think that the minister also went walking with the same puppet behind him, and the minister came out and made a statement and tell us that the child was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Wrong place, wrong time. A child in a playground.
Yeah.
A child in a playground,
Wrong
imagine
place,
that,
wrong
in
time.
a wrong place and the wrong time. So what next? A owner in his store, wrong place, wrong time. A doctor in the hospital and he gets assaulted, wrong place, wrong time. A lawyer in the courthouse, wrong place, wrong time. A public servant in a public service building, wrong place, wrong time. There's no right time for crime to be perpetrated on citizens.
Very well
So I
said.
don't understand this wrong place, wrong time. That's not an excuse. What that is an abdication of responsibility. It means that the Minister of National Security has surrendered. And I think Ms. Haynes, I was listening to Ms. Anita Haynes on the Sunday presser, and she put it right. You don't cede territory to gangs. You are in a war against crime. You are the Minister of National Security. You are a general, right? Under that general is the Commissioner of Police. And those two fellas, well, at least the Minister of National Security, the best he could tell you, well, that's a normal thing in the community, right? You don't surrender territory in a war. You don't cede cities and communities to gangs. What nonsense is that? You go in and you take back your community by armed force if necessary, but you take it back. If you have to put up some temporary police posts there, I remember they used to have under the partnership the police, the trailers. Put up a few there, surround the school, push back the criminal element, make sure those children at least have the next year where they don't have to be ducking and hiding under desks. Even if you could give them a few months, a few years of that kind of pushback, that would make a difference.
But the minister seems quite comfortable with the analysis that them children safe and they're accustomed to that. I mean, he went at length to even say that some of those children may be very well accustomed with that activity, gunshot by their home, suggested to the public that some of those children, parents, whether grandparents, brother, sister, cousin, aunt, probably fire several wrongs, because he said that he believed that some of them very well may be accustomed. But added to that, he went on to tell this country that this is nothing strange.
Well, that is, you know what that is? He is now accepting that crime is part of our culture. Could you imagine that?
Yes. And I keep telling Trinidad and Tobago, it appears as though we are growing and we are getting accustomed and we are moving the benchmark all the time. Because I remember...
I want to stop it there, not we, the PNM.
Right.
The PNM seems to be doing that.
I remember that when we had 1 or 2 murder, it was a big thing.
Yes.
And then when we had 3 and 4, they get accustomed to 2.
Yeah.
And when they have 5, they get accustomed to 4. And everybody just keep adjusting themselves to suit this rowdy bunch of incompetence. And I am going to beat the public for that. I am going to scold the public for that, because the public have a responsibility. They has a responsibility to step in where the government fail.
Yes.
We cannot allow the country to go down the drain simply because we support a bunch of people who we feel belongs to we, and they could do no wrong. The country could turn upside down, and the public, and I ain't only blaming the PNM, you know. Listen what I'm going to know. I'm not only blaming the PNM supporters, I even blaming some of the UNC supporters. And I will tell you why. I will tell you why, my friend. If the PNM supporters fail to stand up in this country for what is right, then the UNC supporters must do it.
Agreed.
We must do it. We cannot surrender and say, well, look, the PNM supporters agreeing to that, and therefore we can do nothing. I am not accepting that at all. We have to get up and save this country for ourselves, for the PNM supporters, and for all our children.
Yes.
That's my position.
I agree. You see, PNM supporters, UNC supporters, all of us are citizens of this country.
Correct.
This little rock here belongs to all of us. We all love it. We all enjoy living here. We all want a better standard of life for ourselves, for our families, for our children. We all want to be able to get up on a Sunday morning and be able to drive to Maracas, get a bacon shack, be safe. We want to be able to go on the avenue at night and eat our doubles. We want to be able to go to your Ramlila, go to your church, go to your temple. We want to be Trinidad and normalize and be able to be safe and do the things that we love to do.
Correct.
And that applies to everybody. Whether you want to go out in the night and play a little small goal, a little basketball, a little wind ball cricket. That is the country to which we all aspire. And therefore the PNM supporters, we love them. They are citizens. But we want them to understand their party doing nonsense. And sometimes you have to beat it in the head. Right? And you have to show them, you have to point out where they're wrong, and you have to fight them.
Correct.
You have to fight them. That's fine. Because it's one country, one love. Right? I am okay with that. And they have to understand, PNM supporters, you have to understand, unfortunately for you and your party and your pride, your Minister of National Security is a complete waste of time, incompetent. I don't know of any other way to describe it. He's an attorney at law, I know him. I've seen him practice. He's not a bad attorney. But put that aside. Anybody, it could be Mother Teresa herself, anybody goes and says after a crime is committed where a young child has died,
wrong place,
that the child was in the wrong place at the wrong time, has absolutely no business being the Minister of National Security.
I agree.
None at all.
And my brother, you are so right. It's our country. It's PNM supporters' country. It's UNC supporters' country. It is everybody's country. And we have to do what is right in this country. Whether a certain group doesn't want to do it, we have to do it. And I am going to be making some serious calls coming round the bend here, I am going to be making some serious calls coming round the bend because I am prepared. I am wholeheartedly prepared to stand up against what is happening in this country. And this is what I am going to encourage the people of this country to do. We cannot, Kyle, we just cannot sit down and just hope that is the neighbor child and not we own. We cannot sit down and hope is a PNM businessman that get killed and not we family. We have to stand up and do what is right in this country. And I am going to be calling on the people of this country to stand up. I am going to be calling and I am going to call from in front, I ain't going behind no tree or behind no drum or behind no tank to call, I am going to call from the front because let me tell you something. I have seen, and I want the business sector to recognize this, I want them because it seems as though that they don't understand what is happening or who are the targets of these criminals. They may not understand that. While there was some go kill one another for turf and so on, but the targets would be the business sector. They are the ones. The criminal element will be going after the business sector in this country. And while they want to remain dumb, and while they want to finance the PNM and the foolishness that's going on in this country, to the end of the day, is them going to be getting kidnapped? Is them going to be getting robbed? Is them going to be getting killed? And you have an incompetent minister who will very well tell you, as the businessman, you was in the wrong place at the wrong time, even while you're in your business. You see, there's a certain percentage of people in this country that have all the security that they need.
Yes.
Including Hines. I am also understanding that it's also alleged that every one of Hines' family have 2 security detail. So where does that put you, the average man who support Hines, and the average man who support Rowley, and the average man who support Beckers, and the average man who support Stuart Young? I heard my leader said recently that Stuart Young, as the Minister of Energy, probably have more security detail than Hines.
But that is, you see, and that is one of the classic signs of a dictatorship. You have this little group, this little cabal of people that use the country and the power and the institutions to elevate themselves above the population. When in fact, They are supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. They have put themselves above the people for their own benefit. And that could never be right.
Yeah.
And what they try to do is distinguish themselves from the people. So you find the people have a certain way of living. They have to get healthcare in Trinidad. They don't get healthcare in Trinidad. They go outside, but they tell you healthcare in Trinidad is good enough for you.
Yeah, the best.
Right? They tell you where you live is safe, but look at where they are living. Right? They tell you the police service could protect you, but each one of them have privately armed bodyguards and security and their own firearm. While they're fighting down people with getting legal firearms, there is another thing, right? They tell you live on scrums and crumbs, right? While they're eating the best. And that is how you can identify a dictatorship. That is how you can identify a committee of dictators. That's what they are. When they separate themselves and want to live above the people instead of below. Now, nobody is saying we want to see the Prime Minister jumping in a PTSD bus every day or a maxi and going to work. Nobody is saying that. But you must identify with the struggles and problems of the ordinary people. And if you are so confident in your governance, then what is the need for all of that security for everybody? It means you are failing on your job. Unless there's some specific threats against them. That is where we could, if somebody received death threats because you are minister or whatever, well, I could understand extra security. We have no information of that.
Right.
But what we see is these fellas driving in their Prados, driving in driving past people, talking down to people, reaching in communities and telling them, well, children who ducking and cowering for their lives, well, y'all weren't really in any danger. Mind you, I don't know. A bullet is like Atto Bolden, right?
Yeah.
After 100 meters, you cross a finish line and you end the race.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it'll just drop down after 100
It's just drop
meters,
after 100, right? Or after 200, it pull up the back and relax. I didn't know that. Anil need to tell me that. I know Anil is a man that's been analyzing racing and form and thing. I didn't know a bullet does just stop after 200 meters. That is madness. And then what about the psychological damage to these children? What about the fear? Can you learn in that environment? When you look at, you pick up Economist today or any world magazine, you see children in China, in the advanced countries in the world, small classrooms, technology, isolated, working hard, studying, innovation. Archie could tell you about some of the best interactive education software and equipment in the world. But we, instead of having that, we have children ducking from bullets. And that's good enough. And worse yet, you have the same Minister of National Security saying, well, let's surrender the community. We see them because that's normal. This is normal. Ducking from bullets is not normal. Not accessing some iOS or some advanced technology to learn how to do program software, right? That's not normal. What's normal for us is ducking from bullets. And that's why we could never achieve the goals of a society that we need to achieve. It is because of incompetent and poor governance by this PNM government.
Added to that, while the children were ducking on the floor, while bullets was flying, I saw Heinz going up there while no bullet is flying. But you have about 30 or 40 police with them.
Yeah.
But no bullets flying.
Well, I think Dr. Munilal gave the best comparison to that. He said, well, you get some water splash at you and you run down to the police station to make report and prosecute people, right? Water. Some frustrated citizens, they get water. You couldn't take that. That was a big problem. You had to bring the whole might of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service down on somebody for that. But here you have children ducking and you say they're not in danger. Worse yet, there was some criticism. Actually, we have do we have the Facebook post? I don't mean to run the show. With Heinz Facebook post where he blamed the teacher. You know that one? That was absolute some 2 days ago where he put up, he said, is the teacher fault?
Yes, I will get it.
He said teacher was overreacting, Teacher overreacted. Well, I don't know how I would react. I mean, I have been in vicinity of where I heard bullets before and I was cowering, right? But I don't know how it is he could say that this teacher who was brave enough, kept her composure, ensured all of the children were in positions where they could remain safe, where their heads and limbs were down flat, right?
Safest position.
Yeah, exactly. The safest position. She ensured and kept them calm to minimize psychological impact. I don't know how Hines could say that she was being irresponsible. It's just my opinion, but I think he's absolutely blasted wrong.
Well, you see, when I keep telling you folks
look at it.
that this
right?
man...
You could enlarge that a little bit. There's a paragraph I want to read, actually. Right. Yes. Shh. They want, look at it. The voice of the teacher telling them shh, signaling that they keep quiet, was quite misleading.
Mm-hmm.
Let me read that back. The video of the children in Roseville RC School in Laventille laying themselves onto the ground at the sound of automatic gunfire, and in which the voice of the teacher telling them shh, signaling that they keep quiet, was quite misleading. Well, I don't know what's misleading about that. Everybody saw the video. You could be forgiven for thinking that gunmen were actually on the compound. They were not. In fact, the actual shooting took place 200 meters away. This video went viral, came to my attention later. The cop and the suit briefed me on the facts. The school administrator made it quite clear that the children were not in danger or peril. As I said, I don't want any shot a million miles away from me. Much less 200 meters. Where it have men in the world could run that in 20 seconds actually, right? 21 seconds, right? Imagine how fast a bullet travels. You blink and you're dead 200 meters away. They are highly powered weapons that could do that. You blink and you're dead from 200 meters away. Madness.
This is a real sad state of affairs in this country. And again, I have to go back to the population. Because to bring about meaningful change, it will take the population getting involved. It will take the population saying, look, we have had enough of this mismanagement of our affairs. We have had enough of this incompetency, and we decide that going forward, we want to elect people who will have us safe in this country. And when you look at Section 4 of the Constitution, when you look at Section 4, I was reading up on the right of expression.
Freedom of expression.
That there is a right that nobody cannot take away from me.
Yes.
In order to express. And I always wonder why it is that we keep, if we want to walk from here to Port of Spain, why we always say that, look, we have to get permission for the commissioner of police if Victor Roberts choose to walk from Erie to top. I always try to figure out, because so far searching and I can't find it. I can't find it any legal basis for me to ask the commissioner of police permission if I choose to walk from Erie to Port of Spain. And if 50 individuals choose to walk on their own from Erie to Port of Spain, I am not seeing.
You can't stop that.
I can't stop that. So I always try to figure out, well, where is this something that is implied because of the dictatorial tendencies of the government, where they will have you to believe that, look, if I want to walk down the road, I have to get permission. If I had to stand up here, I have to get permission. Because I remember standing up by the Hall of Justice step. And I remember the police tell me that they will charge me for loitering. So I was asking the police, well, what is the ingredients or the recipe?
Now you need to, I think to answer that question is a very, very important question. But we need to understand something as a population. And as a lawyer, I perhaps know it more than most. But I understand it, because no law is absolute in the sense that laws could protect a country from dictatorship. You could have hundreds of laws. You could pass a law against dictatorship, as we have in this country.
And still end up with that dictatorship.
Right? Dictatorships all over the world throughout history have flourished and have been created from democracies. even where Venezuela was a democracy, a very thriving democracy in the 1980s. Check it up, read it, right? What happens is that people come into power, the population goes to sleep, and these persons in power abuse laws. Now that law you're talking about,
You could just repeat that again.
what happens is ordinary, right-thinking people like ourselves go to sleep, let our guards down, and dictators take over in the dead of night. And what happens here, and this is a perfect example. There is a law which says that if you want to hold a public march or a public meeting, you must get police permission. The intention of that law, when passed, was not to prevent Victor Roberts from marching. It was meant to facilitate you marching. Because you may march, you may cause a public, not disturbance, but a public movement. There may be persons walking, and you may need police officers to guide traffic, to make sure cars don't crash into you when you're walking, to make sure other persons. What that law was meant to do was to notify the police that you would be holding and expressing your constitutional rights to do something, right? And they are meant to protect and serve you, because there is no higher law in this country than your constitutional rights. There is no higher law in the world than natural law. And it is the most natural thing in mankind and in a human for you to express yourself. What we're doing here is so basically human. Animals don't talk to each other. We talk to each other. We express. That is what distinguishes us. Right? So we have freedom of expression. The police are meant, when you put in that letter, it's not for them to sit back and determine, I think this is a good reason to march, I think that is a bad reason to march. That is not what the law is intended to do. That law is intended, so Victor Roberts is telling the police, who is supposed to serve and protect you, I am coming to exercise my right. Protect me, facilitate me, make sure for the good of our democracy, I can express my opinion and rights through a march. That is what the law was intended for. But somehow, Officer Pinocchio, or the puppet commissioner of police, decides that he wants to have tear gas. He wants to lock up people for marching, right? That's how he has interpreted the law. That is how the government interprets the law. So every time our brothers and sisters in the United and other parties, I've seen them from other parties, every time they gather, well, police come to jostle and hassle. Instead of police saying, okay fellas, you all want to protest? No problem. Protest here, do this, just don't disturb these people. And I think everybody will be okay with that, because we want to make our point. We want the public to see what our opinion is and what is the grievance that we have come here to express. But they don't do that. They pervert the law. You hear about perverting the course of justice? They pervert the law. They use the law for their own convenience to prop up this dictatorship. And that is what we cannot stand for.
So, this brings me to a real big question. And I will structure it in this way. So, would the courts be able, in the case where I inform the police commissioner or whoever acting wherever that I am going to embark on a march from point A to point B, and he tells me that he denies me that right, could I take any action?
Of course,
to allow the court
in fact,
to determine?
In fact, we recently had a case with a gentleman who was a fervent supporter of our party. He's moved on, and I still have respect for him, Mr. Welch. He applied for permission. He was denied just so, right? Denied, no reason. We took them to court, and the court declared that the decision was unlawful. The court declared that if you were going to deny me a march, you have to have a good reason. You can't just deny like that. And the reason they wanted to talk about, COVID done. So what good reason could you have? And if not today, what about tomorrow? If not tomorrow, what about the next day? The reason can't apply for every day. So they have to let you march. And I would say, put it in. Let them deny us. We'll go straight to court.
So that brings me to what I'm going to tell you here now. That brings me to, I will be seeking your assistance very soon, in the next couple of days, to put a letter inside
Yes.
for a 3-phase march. 3-phase.
Victor, you're doing more planning than this government. They don't have 3 phases or anything. They just react. Right? But you're doing well. Continue.
3-phase. And this 3-phase will take us into January of next year.
Right?
So there will be 2 phases and 1 phase in January.
Good.
So I will seek your indulgence in putting that document together so that we can send it to the police commissioner. I said here last week that I intend to bring 30,000 people to walk in town.
I think you could get that. I think
30,000 people.
I think you could get that. I think the population is sufficiently upset and fed up that we will march on this government, we will let them know, and we will force them to have an election. Numbers are everything, and no police service in the world could stop us, right? Once you're genuine, once your intentions are genuine, once you do it within a lawful way, no police service in the world could stop us from expressing our opinion and right, and our dismay and disgust at this government, the way they are handling, the way they are undermining our democracies. We must express it, and I would join you in that call, and I would join you in that march.
Appreciate
Might
it.
not have my suit on, so that's fine, but I'm joining you on that march.
Yeah, so that's the plan, and I'm making it public. I'm making it public to the public.
Right.
Prepare yourself.
Prepare.
Prepare yourself. Don't just talk the talk and text me and call me and Mr.
What we
Roberts.
doing? What we doing?
Yeah, what we doing and what we doing.
doing?
What we doing? We going and do what we doing. I want to see. I want to see, because we also intend to write within the very, very short possible time. I intend to write every institution in this country.
Yes.
The trade union, the IRO, the business chambers of commerce,
The law association.
the law association,
The judiciary.
everybody.
You should write the
everybody.
police, because I am sure, Victor, there are hard-working, good police out there who are upset with what's going on.
Writing the police,
Yeah.
writing the prisons, writing the fire,
Yeah.
writing everybody. Because you see, we just cannot allow the government to breach the constitution and get away with it, because it sets a precedent to make it even better for another government. Because when you already set a precedent and we allow it to slip through,
Yeah.
we cannot correct it after, because as a lawyer, as an attorney, as a very good attorney as I know, you will know that there is certain matters, certain laws that is not really written, that you will go back to precedents that is set to get a judgment on.
Convention. Yeah, of
Right?
course.
So those are things that we just cannot allow to happen. And when we have breaches from the highest office, because we consider the president, whether some people call it the office a rubber stamp or a real stamp, we consider when we have a breach from the office of the president, I mean, that is the whole capsiding of democracy in this country.
Yes.
The whole capsiding.
Well, the state's power is the symbolic, the sceptoral or the symbolic office of power of our state resides with the president. So that office is the symbol of our power, of our sovereignty. And for you to pollute that office with your greed, with your dictatorial tendencies, with your need to control every institution and everything, with that type of attitude, for you to pollute the office of the president with that, it means you have no respect for our democracy, no respect for our parliament, no respect for the citizens of this country, and more importantly, no respect for our future in this country. None at all.
Arch, we have a video
I have it.
with the man in the red shirt.
Man in red shirt.
Coming up,
Ask
I
me.
was going to tell you about it. You have like the rate the PNM going at. You might have to extend a letter to the PNM.
Well, run that video for me.
All right.
There was
I want to see
Kyle.
Coming
Thoughts?
up momentarily. Give me a second.
Right. So while you're getting the video, I want you to look at this video.
Yeah.
I want you to look at this video.
I'm scared.
I want you to tell me that if this is not reality, then what is?
Let me see this video, boy.
That is what I wanted to tell me. If this is not reality, then what is?
PNM people,
Right.
the internal elections in the PNM. When things go wrong, you blame for this. You take the task. I take in the leadership of this party. They did 10 years, and all I see is underperformance. I see a bully type of mentality, and I see them making decisions over the members of this party here without me having even an input. Even in general council, we don't even have a say or a voice. They just pull together in a room and make decisions to be. This is not what we want. This is not the structure of the PNM, you know. This is just this leadership just doing what they want. Tobago will get all your full kudos. This has shown that we already lost the enthusiasm of the members of the PNM in Tobago. What are we going to do now? Vote back in these people? Vote back in these newcomers into this party? Stuart, are you talking about people who now come? Stuart, you now come into this party. You are a person who benefit from this organization. It are people, members of this party who work hard and they get nothing for it. MPs talking to people how they want like this, some kind of demigod. They ain't doing nothing. They only talking. Fitzgerald Heinz came in a mess. You should just step aside and resign. Dr. All, you told people that when Kamala couldn't handle, she should step aside. Why not stepping aside? You say that this was your last term and you're still here? Why not step aside? Why do you get the party a chance to grow Kitrowley? We fed up all here. It don't make no sense we stay here over and over and over and all you're not performing is the same problems. Tobago do the right thing by voting all the PNM, the leadership of this PNM. If we don't change all here and change leadership of this PNM, we're going straight into opposition. PNM people, we have to get up and get rid of the leadership of this party. They do work for the members and therefore the members can't work with all here. Lupino Bonnet, time to get up. You have an MP there who not from the community who just making bacchanal. Time to get rid of these people.
To say, as a youth growing up, wheel and come again. Is there any way we can wheel and come again? I always want to say that on air and cause something. I want to listen to that fella again. I want to listen to that fella again.
Elections in the PNM. When things go wrong, you blame for this. You take the task. I take in the leadership of this party. They did 10 years, and all I see is underperformance. I see a bully type of mentality, and I see them making decisions over the members of this party here without me having even an input. Even in general council, we don't even have a say or a voice. They just pull together in a room and make decisions to be. This is not what we want. This is not the structure of the PNM, you know. This is just this leadership just doing what they want. Tobago will get all your full kudos. This has shown that we already lost the enthusiasm of the members of the PNM in Tobago. What are we going to do now? Vote back in these people? Vote back in these newcomers into this party? Stuart, are you talking about people who now come? Stuart, you now come into this party. You are a person who benefit from this organization. It are people, members of this party who work hard and they get nothing for it. MPs talking to people how they want like this, some kind of demigod. They ain't doing nothing. They only talking. Fitzgerald Heinz came in a mess. You should just step aside and resign. Dr. All, you told people that when Kamala couldn't handle, she should step aside. Why not stepping aside? You say that this was your last term and you're still here? Why not step aside? Why do you get the party a chance to grow Kitrowley? We fed up all here. It don't make no sense we stay here over and over and over and all you're not performing is the same problems. Tobago do the right thing by voting all the PNM, the leadership of this PNM. If we don't change all here and change leadership of this PNM, we're going straight into opposition. PNM people, we have to get up and get rid of the leadership of this party. They do work for the members and therefore the members can't work with all here. Lupino Bonnet, time to get up. You have an MP there who not from the community who just making bacchanal. Time to get rid of these people.
First time I heard that video, right? And what I want from now on, if anybody plays that video or listens to that video, substitute the word party for country. Substitute the word party in that video for country. And everything he said there could apply to the world, to the rest of the country. We need to get rid of this for the good of the country. The leadership of the country is bad. Why is it that they can't take decisions in the country? And that's the problem. And imagine for a member of the ruling party
General
to
Counsel.
feel that alienated. That's what it is, you know. What he is expressing there is alienation. He is not a part of the decision making.
Dictatorial.
He is not a part of the processes of the party. He is not, and I ain't campaigning for no slate. Let me put that very straight. Right? There's only one party I associate with. That is the party of the rule of law.
Yeah.
The rule of law party. That is the party United National Congress. Right? But what he is explaining and what he is crying about there, what he is complaining about there, is that he is totally shut out of the mechanisms in his party. He feels alienated. The party is failing him. And because of their dictatorship, he does not have a voice. And so what people like that need to do is to realize that the PNM is no longer any future for them. There's no future there.
But you would not be able to have a future when they allow. Let me tell you, while I hear him, they are the ones
Come election day.
who allow
Yes.
what is happening now to happen.
Yes.
Because we have seen the young family come in to the PNM and come into the PNM as what we could call a 2x4 person. And I know you're on the streets too, so you know when they say he's a 2x4 lawyer, you know, well, he ain't good at all. And the young family have since grown tremendously in the PNM. Until I believe now, they are learning the PNM finance. Until I believe now. So, they come into the PNM from here, and Rowley always liked to take, to go on the blackboard to explain graph and data, especially when he wanted to close on Petrotrin. And he's showing them this peak here is where Petrotrin is in debt. But he ain't showing the next peak is what Patrick Manning and Malcolm Jones create. So the young family has grown tremendously to a height here. While they who supports and they who vote and they who install the PNM remain right here. Faris Alwari comes in and he also goes up the ladder. While they who support and they who vote and they who install remain right here. And every member of the PNM, we are Maclashe in Labre. He's the Minister of Labour. And sometimes I just feel like he gone into Labour. That's why I just feel. You understand? He's the Minister of Labour, but I feel he gone into Labour. Because all you're getting from he is pain. You know when that woman ready to get book?
You go be in Labour when you open your office there. I understand you open your office soon.
Thursday.
Right.
So to the end of the day, when people now complain, which is the right to do, that look, this is what happening, this is where we are, then you just can't complain. And I want to tell the people and them, I want to tell Trinidad and Tobago that too. We just cannot complain, Kyle. We have to do something in order to fix the problem. We just can't sit down here. We can't come here every week and just say, Rowley this and Stuart Young this and Harry this and Amor this and this one that and that one that. And to the end of the day, we just talk and do nothing. We propose to do something about what is happening. But we want to see if the people of the country really want to do something about what is happening. We're going to create that avenue. Yeah. We're going to create the vehicle. We're going to create the legal framework, so to speak. And they need to come up aboard. And collectively, we would be able to get the job done. Actually, we're going to invite some calls when you're ready.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is time that we agitate. It is time that we animate.
Yeah.
We vibrate. We get some energy through movement of people, and we take that to the streets and take that to the government. That is the way we do it. That is the way you break down. And everybody who is despondent with the PNM needs to come and march. You could be NJAP, PNM, UNC, MOP, POP, whatever other parties they have. No disrespect to any party, just my memory ain't good with that. Right?
You have any dates in mind, Victor?
Yes, we have some dates in mind.
Look at the dates.
We have some dates in mind right here.
As a Hindu, I will consult my pundit and give you some dates as well.
We have some dates in mind right here. Let me just find it there.
But I want to tell that young man, if I could, right? I think it's something that Mr. Pandey once said. It's only you and God in the voting booth, right? Nobody else there. So wave your flag, wear your jersey. But when you reach in the voting booth, vote for the UNC. Because at the end of the day, that is the best for the country, right?
Welcome, caller.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Robert, Mr. Kyle, and Archie, and to everybody on the chat and out there. Very interesting this afternoon. But I want to make a couple of points, very quick. Where were the parents of those children of that school? Nobody said a word in English about what it is going on here. Who are they afraid of? And next thing, Heinz run from dirty water, but these children must protect themselves against bullets. If, God forbid, I'm not saying I wanted it to happen, if while they were walking there and gunshots were firing, what would Heinz have done? Stand up? He wouldn't have ducked as well. He will stand up and say, yes, I'm here, nothing is going to happen to me because it's 200 meters away. I don't know if you all remembered, earliest night, a child was killed in the Beatum from gunshots being fired on the hills. I wonder if he measured the amount of meters that was. But you see, every time Heinz opened his mouth, he removes what a failure he is. And Keith Rowley is the bigger failure because to continue to leave Heinz in that position and not do anything about it is a disgrace. But like he say, he has COVID again, but like he also has PIP because we're not hearing a word from him. Thanks a lot, guys, and have a good evening.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Miss Santa Cruz. So, I will find the dates and them here for you, Archie. Let me just get it there. You could reply to Miss Santa Cruz, or you could just continue.
No, she's absolutely right. Miss Santa Cruz is more knowledgeable than me on the politics. I want to say that. I think she calls every station, every radio station. She's excellent commentary, excellent analysis. I want to learn from her. Let me put that very clear.
And you were making a point where the people have to agitate. Take the call, Archie.
Hi, good day.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
To Mr. Kyle, Mr. Victor Joseph, and you and all to the panel. Tell Mr. Kyle that he's doing a very good job. The country, and as he and Victor ready to march, I am there with them all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, we're getting some pledges. You know, long time used to have calling pledges for a cause. Well, I like that. Pledges. Call and pledge your support, man.
Welcome, caller.
Call and pledge your support. Call and say where and when you're meeting us and what you're doing. Let me hear what some of your placards going to read.
Welcome, caller.
Hello, good evening.
Good afternoon.
Hi, to the panel. Listen, you see this administration?
Yes.
Fair is fair. I like to call a spade. And the kind of thing this country allowing this administration to get away with. Shame.
And when Victor calls upon you to march with him, will you be with him?
Of course.
Excellent.
Of course. Listen to me. If we allow this to happen, in 2025, when elections is constitutionally due, they could just come and say, well, here, what, we're going until 2030 then?
They could say they're going
They're
forever.
giving us just 5 years.
Because they have the police service with them, right? They have the president with them. They have the Speaker of the House with them. They have the President of the Senate with them. So if we allow this to happen, they could very well in 2025 say, well, no election for you.
Of course.
Yeah, we can't allow that.
So enough is enough.
Enough
And
is
as
enough.
again, I just always say, I am not much of a Gary Griffith fan. But Gary was there and he was working. And you lose confidence in him. But you have these two dodo head here that you lose confidence in as yet.
Correct.
Have a good night, darling.
Thank you, thank you. Next caller.
So,
Huh?
enough is enough.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Good night, good night. What's
Good
what
night,
your
good
placard
night.
going to read?
Come out and march. We want about 40,000. This man, Mr. Victor Roberts, is a very good man and the attorney there. But one
Yes.
thing I want to talk about. Give me a hearing. 1 minute, the thing I want to talk about is the Hindu school. There is a school vacancy at Arima Central Secondary. And why they don't give the Hindu people the school for their children? That bad. Thank you.
No problem. Then that's another issue, that's the government trying to control schools and trying to get rid of something called the Concord Act in this country, which is another fight we have to take up on another day.
Caller, Archie or no caller? No caller. Right, so the first march will be on Thursday the 17th of November. That is a short march. That will be a short march. We'll give you the details on Friday. The big march will start on Saturday the 17th of December. That is the first leg.
And before any police, Victor, want to pretend, or they're listening, we know all they're listening to the program, that is fine, right? Before any police want to ring up your phone or call and come and visit and say you're organizing march, go and read the law. The law say we have up until 48 hours before to give you notice. And we say we will give you notice. Notice. We're not asking for permission. Notice. You will know when and where in writing. We will write that to the Commissioner of Police.
Beautiful. Welcome, caller.
Hi, good
Very
night.
good evening to you, gentlemen. You know how long I waited? I have my stuck waiting. My hat. All I had to buy is a rock for my bag, the most of it, a roti and my water. I
Yeah. Yes, I agree. Get
and
up early in the morning.
I'm going to read. We are number one in the world in corruption. All the best.
Yeah, correct. You get up early in the morning, make a roti and put it in the foil and come down the road to march.
Thank you. So the first march, as I said, will be a small march on Thursday, the 17th of November. The big march starting on Saturday. You notice the day I'm calling. Saturday, the 17th of December. That is the first big march. And that march will be taking place from south to San Fernando.
Good.
The second phase of that march will be on January 7th, which is a Saturday again. And that will be from San Fernando to Chaguanas.
Right.
And the final stage of this march is on January 13th, which is Friday the 13th.
Ah, boy.
Black Friday. And that will be where you will wear black. And it will be from Chaguanas straight to Port of Spain. The details we will give you. We just give you a preview of what is to come.
I'm just calling to find out if a government minister can hire a sibling.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Sorry, you could repeat that?
I'm just calling to find out if a government minister can hire a sibling.
If a government minister could hire his siblings.
No, well, I mean, you could technically do it, but if you hire your siblings without proper process, without advertising the position, without proper pay package, without proper competition, then you're acting illegally and unlawfully, and the police have to get involved. Nothing is wrong with your brother. Just because I become somebody in public office, it doesn't mean my brother has to live in poverty.
But the
Right? The process must be fair and transparent. That is the problem.
So that is the date certainly. That
Yes, I just want to say, Victor surprised me here because people go want to get vexed with me because I have been receiving on my phone hundreds of messages. Well, what we doing? Are we marching? How we demonstrated? And I saying, well, I'm waiting for Victor to make the call. So now that Victor has made the call here on DouglAR Politics, I am going to fall in line behind my general, Mr. Victor Roberts, and assist him and support him in what way I could to ensure that this project is a success.
Thank you very much. So here you have it, Trinidad and Tobago. The first phase, as I said, next week, November 17 will be a short march. That is right in Tong Tong. I'll give you some details on that Friday. But the real big monster march, where we're looking for 30,000 plus, will start from south on Saturday, the 17th of November. December, sorry.
So the first one is 17 November.
Right, the first one is Saturday, 17th of November.
Right.
The second one will be January 7th, which is a Saturday again.
Right.
2023.
Okay.
And the final one will be again on the 13th January 2023.
Black Friday.
Which is Black Friday.
Good.
So that's the final phase. So we have 217.
So we're going into Port of Spain on Black Friday.
Black Friday.
Good.
Dressed in black.
Dressed in black. Hi, good night.
Good night, Chief. Good night to the panel.
Good night.
My placard will say to take away all the perks from all those government ministers and all them top high-ranking people. We will end up with about $500 million that will fuel the fuel tax on the road. It will fix everything. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Who making the, they used to have a effigy of our political leader. I want to make an effigy of some ministers and take them on the march with me.
Yeah.
Right? To have them on the march with us so they could see the people because we know they're not going to be watching or they're going to hide. So we want them there with us, right? So I would encourage everybody, make an effigy of your favorite minister and bring them, right?
Beautiful. So get your calendar and mark it on December 17th, January 7th, January 13th.
By effigy, I mean bubbly, right? Just in case everybody don't understand.
Mark it down, people, because I think this is it. I think this is it. We cannot allow what is happening to continue. And if PNM people, now whether from the General Council level, complaining about the dictatorial behavior about their leaders within inside their party, who making decisions, they are not say, carry them in a room, and they are to remain dummy, make decisions, put it out there, they are to obey. It's what I was telling you earlier on. It's a clear case, or a clear case of you being enslaved once more after we have exited slavery.
But what that means, Victor, you know what that means? We no longer have a political party in control of this country, We have a bunch of conspirators, a gang of dictators, a group of tyrants in charge of this country. It's not even a political party, because here you had a gentleman from the political party saying we don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
They don't even know how decisions are making. So imagine if the PNM supporters don't have contact with their leaders. What about the rest of us? That is how far gone this thing has gotten. Whereas once you could say, well, there's a government only for the supporters and they're excluding the rest of us. That is one thing. But now they've broken a new threshold. It seems that they don't even care about their own supporters. So we have to, you're right, we have to march. We have to do things to save them.
So again, let me just reiterate because I had my mic off. We have a small march will be taking place on the 17th. All right? But I'm saying on the 17th, let me just go back to it to make sure I confuse nobody.
You go post
The 17th, the 7th, and the 13th is the dates for the big march. The 17th of December, big march. January 7th, big march. January 13th, Black Friday, conclusion of this big 40, 50, 30,000 people making that statement and standing up. And we could very well call ourselves the defenders of democracy, because that is what we need to defend in this country. We have to defend our democracy. We have to be defenders of our constitution, because the constitution being the highest law of the land, the highest framework, what should govern you, me, the politicians, the independent institutions? What govern the state of affairs in this country? And we have allowed one man, one president, and some others to contaminate that. Where we sit now, I am asking, and I asked this question a couple of times, I am now wondering if the contamination have already spread to the DPP office. I asked that question and asked it again, because I cannot understand why today we have had so many allegations hanging and hanging and hanging, while Rowley tried to justify the behavior of Faris Alwari with Nelson by going back to a case with Abdul Malik with the Gail and Benson murder, while he stand on a platform and Pigot's Corner and telling you, the public, that if you could remember the Gail and Benson matter and draw reference to United States Attorney General, which laws is totally different to our jurisdiction, while he will have you to believe that the Attorney General had some kind of power. You see, before the DPP, the Attorney General had some power, you know. But since the DPP was put in place, since that legislation appoint the Director of Public Prosecution, then the Attorney General have to know his place. Welcome, caller.
Hi, good night.
Yes, good night, Victor. Good night, Mr. Rambali. Caller from New York. Good night, Mr. Rambali. I hear you was talking about the sleeping of the politics. It's like they catch the country sleeping. But I want to tell you one thing, is that they catch the country sleeping since the Minister of Finance come out and say, you didn't riot one time, you didn't riot two times, you didn't riot three times. They catch the people and the country from since that time. It's not now they catch the people sleeping in it. They catch the people sleeping a long time.
Correct.
Long time they catch the people sleeping.
Yeah, I agree. They came in and they saw a population that wanted better for the country. They saw a population, a peaceful population, and they have taken advantage of us. They have taken advantage of us. They have abused us. They have beaten us into submission, but we will not submit. We will not submit. We will not surrender. We will neither flag nor fail. What we intend to do is to bring the fight to the government. We will ensure our democracy is protected.
Yes, by all means.
By all means necessary.
Lawfully. By all means lawfully. And this is what we have, Kyle. We have so many breaches by this government that it seems as though that we doesn't even have an idea now what is not contaminated.
Yeah.
We just don't know, because we have independent senators who one would expect will stand up in the interest.
I disagree. There is not like independent senators. I want to abolish that. I think that bench should be abolished.
We had people who was appointed by the Constitution to look to make sure that checks and balance is in place to protect the sovereignty of our democracy.
Yeah, and they failed to do that. So we should abolish that bench.
We are the president, boy, for all God in heaven knows. The president, a learned judge, an individual who is quite qualified, who it appears as though her knowledge supersedes her character. And to the end of the day, while you ought to be the guardian of the Constitution, the protector of the Constitution, you have allowed a prime minister to manipulate and to conspire and to mash up and to throw under the bus the document that ought to govern the whole country.
Yeah, you see, it was said, I remember it was said of Napoleon, when he started to conquer Europe, he was intoxicated by the wine of success. We have a prime minister who's intoxicated by the rum of dictatorship. So every time he meets an institution, it seems that he gets a high by conquering it. So he mash up the president's office, he feels good. It's like you take your first drink, you start to feel good. Mash up the DPP office, he went after, he start to feel good. Right? Mash up the independent bench, feel good. Mash up and disrespect the parliament, feel better. So now he is high on his own dictatorship. But we must sober him up.
Yeah.
We must sober him up on those dates you call.
We
must make him watch us in our face, and that must scare him into sobriety.
And you leave out one. While he did all that, he continued to have the judiciary in the back pocket.
Yeah.
So he could pull out. Let me tell you how people know the danger of what is happening. And I want to back up a little bit, my brother. When you have a Chief Justice who have had so many allegations hanging over his head, and a prime minister would not give the Chief Justice the opportunity to clear his name from those allegations by not appointing the tribunal to listen to the allegations and to determine whether or not the allegations that comes before the tribunal is evidence as to whether to impeach the Chief Justice or to dismiss the allegations. And a prime minister gets up one morning and said, well, I don't believe that there is enough evidence to warrant a tribunal. Who is you, Mr. Prime Minister? Who is you?
Well, you see, that is Machiavellian. That is what that is, Machiavellian. He wants to hold, he understands that it is better to be feared than loved. And he wants the Chief Justice to fear him. So he hangs this over his head. And I was part of that case. I acted in those days for the Law Association. The Law Association set up a committee, did an investigation on their own. He tried to stop the investigation. The Privy Council told him, bat in your crease. Tried to stop it. The Privy Council told him, bat in your crease. The Law Association makes a recommendation to the Prime Minister. Mr. Prime Minister, you need to appoint a tribunal to investigate this tribunal. I am not saying anything about the
Chief Justice.
The allegation.
Correct.
Let me be very clear.
Correct.
This is a matter which affects the confidence in the administration of justice and the judiciary. Victor, how does some old people sitting in a court with a robe on have the power to compel us to do anything? You know what it is? It is we give them the consent to do that because we consent to law and we have confidence in the judiciary as an institution to dispense justice. And if you don't have that, you've eroded your entire justice system.
Only point.
Go ahead.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Yes, I have a question for the attorney, Mr. Tacklalsingh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, attorney. I applied for a variation approximately 2 years ago. The investigation was done. The commissioner went, that is Mr. Judicial, went out of office and we have a new commissioner. Since then, I haven't heard anything from the present commissioner, whether I will be granted it or not. It is unfair to me. Can you comment on this, please? And furthermore, is there any authority to look over the commissioner concerning this issue? Thank you.
All right. Well, one, I don't want to give legal advice on the air like that in that way. Two, it seemed to be that you applied for some certificate and you didn't get it. And there's some delay. The law offers you a remedy in unlawful delay. Go to attorney, get some advice, and they can write a letter to ensure that you get it. And if you don't get it, they can go to court to compel you to get this, compel the public authority to give you whatever certificate you're seeking. You were breaking up, so I don't know. But you know, we could talk about that another time. When I do legal aid clinics all over the country. I think we having one in Mayaro on the 17th of November, right? 17th. We invite everybody. I think Mr. Parry is having a legal aid clinic on the 10th, the 19th of November, right? 19th of November down in Mayaro. Some lawyers will be down there. It's a legal aid clinic. So anybody have questions, you could contact the thing and you could come down there.
And thanks for your call, but caller, we want to stick to the subject matter. We want to stick to the subject matter. We don't want to stray because Attorney Kiel Tacklalsingh was making a very important point where he was involved in that case.
I was one of the lawyers who stood up to bring the case for the Law Association. Right? For the
Welcome, caller.
Yeah, go ahead. Next caller.
Good evening again, everybody. I just have to come back in. I heard Mr. Victor throwing out a lot of dates out here. Wait for it. You're going to hear from tomorrow morning. What Kamala doing? What Kamala and the UNC doing? So much a wrong thing going on in the country. Rowley doing so much a wrong thing. And Kamala quiet. Right? They need a vociferous leader because Kamala too quiet. But they don't pay attention to all the meetings that going on. But then they get on the radio station the next day and it's one set of tribe they're spewing. Wait for it. Thanks a lot, guys.
I agree with you. If the PNM and the PNM supporters want to know what the UNC is doing, call an election. Call an election and let the UNC govern the country because they are the rule of law party. I have said that is why I associate with the UNC, because they are the party of the rule of law. They are the party that gave us the Freedom of Information Act, the Judicial Review Act, the Integrity Commission, right? Or so much good pieces of legislation and law to improve democracy, not the PNM.
Mr. Santa Cruz, I will ask you when you hear them. Eric Williams made a statement. I just do use.
Let them breathe.
I just don't use those words.
Let them breathe.
Let them breathe. You just let them breathe. What they need to know is that the UNC is live, kicking, and the UNC will take the necessary action.
Vibrant and powerful.
Yeah, so
and full of amazing people.
So it's making us that
yes,
point.
So the point is that when you have allegations against the top judicial officer that remain unresolved, what you are doing is eroding confidence in the judicial system. And if no one has confidence in the judicial system, then the judicial system falls down. And that's what you have. How do you resolve disputes? Right? If you don't have a judicial system to file a case, how do you resolve disputes? With the gun and the sword and the cutlass and the fist and violence. And that is why we have violence. Because people don't believe that their disputes can be resolved in a humane and civilized way in a court of law. And that is why it was important. Not because we think the Chief Justice is guilty, I don't know. But what it is that the Prime Minister ought not to have held that over the head of the Chief Justice. He should have initiated the tribunal and let the Chief Justice clear his name.
Exactly.
You see,
exactly.
An investigation and a trial does two things, you know. Not only does it punish the guilty, it vindicates the innocent. It vindicates the innocent. And this would have resolved everything if Chief Justice Archie was guilty. Well, that step would have to be taken. But if he was innocent, all of this nonsense, all of this talk, somebody would have to answer. Yeah. Somebody would have to answer defamation or something. Yeah. And that's the point.
And you see, the fact remains, I remember it, there, actually thinking about a case was in Tobago where a ruling was made with a judge. I think it had to do with the same election. Was it with the cutting of the boundaries?
Yes.
I don't want to comment on that because I was on that case, right?
Right, yes. That's when they changed the judge and the decisions was changed.
Only can talk now, I can't talk.
A judge went on holiday and next thing a judge come and rescind a decision. Something to that effect, Archie. I will talk about that on another day. I will talk that on another day because you see,
I have my views on the way that went, but you'll talk that another day.
Right, and you see, that's. Never forget that topic. I will never come back here, but we will always have a problem. We will always have a problem when it appears that there is some holding of some wrongdoing over somebody. I think that is a real
injustice. It is an injustice that the PNM and the Prime Minister has perpetrated on the citizens of this country by not allowing that issue to be resolved. Not in the way we want it resolved, but in the way the Constitution says it must be resolved. Because the Constitution says that once there is that complaint and you are satisfied there are reasonable grounds, as the Law Association felt there was, then the Prime Minister has a constitutional duty to institute the tribunal to investigate and determine, not string up and hang, investigate and determine. And then there was an appeal from that to the Privy Council if necessary. But they have destroyed confidence in the judicial system because of that. Because this is a government that has no respect for any democratic institution. Because you see, they look at democratic institutions and independent institutions as getting in their way. They are designed to be a check and balance on your power. They aren't meant to be a hindrance and an obstacles. What you have to do is act within the law, act within process, act within the Constitution, and you will be just fine. But when you want to trample like an elephant on every ant or everything in your path, then we're going to have problems. But you will eventually meet another elephant, and I figure that elephant is you.
You see, listen how deep I thought of this. In the case where we have this serious breach with the president, with this merit list, the Chief Justice is a very powerful individual when I look at it. The Chief Justice also has the authority to appoint the judges.
Yes.
To look.
He's the head of the JLSC.
Right. But in case of even setting up a tribunal against the president, the Chief Justice has the authority to pick 3 judges.
Yes, I believe so, yes.
3 judges. Yeah. Put them sit down there. Now, when you have those allegations still hanging and dangling over the Chief Justice's head, how would you, the public, feel when the same individual with these dangling allegations would have to appoint people to look into and determine the fate of somebody else, when you of your own self have these allegations that is not yet.
Oh, well, it's a slur. It is a slur on the administration of justice. It is a slur on the judiciary, and it is a slur on each and every citizen in this country that depends and believes in an independent judicial system. And it is this very Prime Minister and his Attorney General, who had so much problems months ago, who wants to now come and tell the population that we should abandon the Privy Council and we should go to the CCJ.
So
same fellas,
who appointed the judge
in the CCJ?
For the CCJ?
Well, boy, well, there's a what you call a regional judicial and legal services. But if that is what is expected in ours, who is to say that won't be the case in the regional? We don't know, because where these fellas, where these tentacles of this dictatorship go, we would never know. And that is precisely the nature of a dictatorship, to secretly infiltrate institutions, and we will not accept it. We will not accept it. And the judicial system in this country needs endless reform. From the way we appoint and promote judges to many other things, the facilities, the way we decide things, the way judicial officers are trained. We need a commission of inquiry into the administration of justice, and we must resolve our problems. And then one day in the future, we could have a discussion about coming out of the Privy Council, but not now.
But let me ask you a hard question, a very hard question.
You don't ask easy ones, but go ahead.
Do you think that one man should have the power in determining prosecutions in this country? Or do you think it should be a board or some checks and balance? And I dealing specifically with the DPP.
All right. So let me get a little technical here. The DPP has the sole constitutional remit to determine prosecutions in this country, as you say. If a citizen has a problem with a decision made by the DPP, he has two recourses. He could defend his name in court if he's charged. You have an entire judicial system to protect you. You will have your trial, your jury, all the way up to the Privy Council. You can also file a judicial review, as lawyers have done. There was a very successful one recently. I believe Mr. Ramdeen was the lawyer in that one, if I'm not mistaken. Brilliant lawyer, brilliant judicial review lawyer, and he was successful in a landmark case in the Commonwealth in challenging the decision of a DPP. So it is not that the DPP has no check and balance. Any decision he makes is subject to judicial review of the courts, of a judge, and eventually to the Privy Council if necessary. That is the way law works, because no discretion is absolute in law. It cannot be arbitrary, and so if he makes arbitrary decisions, that's a problem. Now, I think what you are getting at is a political issue in the sense that we have seen certain matters before the DPP languish, not prosecuted, while on the other hand, you see certain matters getting a lot of attention, right? To put it mildly. The way to deal with that is the way they deal with it in England. In England, you have the DPP who remains as the sole decision maker. It's called the Crown Prosecution Service in there, the Crown Prosecutor. And what there is a prosecutorial review board. That might not be the name, but it's a board that reviews decisions of the DPP and makes recommendations back to the DPP. So if a recommendation comes, that is a very compelling reason for the DPP to change his mind on a decision. And that is the recourse you have for the DPP. And I think that is something that we need in our judicial system. But the first thing is, we can't jump to the assumption. I don't think we could jump to the assumption that the DPP is acting with malfidés or bias. We need evidence before we say that. But what I would say is that the government seems to understaff and under-resource the DPP. And therefore the DPP cannot deal with the level of work and have the right amount of prosecutors. Yet, when they want to go after politicians, they pay millions of dollars to hire lawyers and make them police officers, SRP, Kate and the bunch. Right? I believe you went and you gave her a greeting, welcome to Trinidad and Tobago. Bienvenido to Trinidad and Tobago, right? But that is the point. That is the point. You have a misprioritization of funding in the criminal and judicial prosecution process in our country, in the criminal justice system, because the government is so obsessed with abusing and using resources, state resources, to go after politicians rather than fighting crime. Going on in this country right now, there's some massive thing going after firearm dealers and firearm license holders. Right? So you, and the leader said it last night. I don't know, I don't have no personal information, but the leader said it last night. Said, where's your priority? You're not going after illegal guns, you're going after legal guns. That is craziness.
You see, one of my grave concern is that I have seen where allegations against the PNM ministers, and I also saw some allegation against a particular UNC.
Yes, without calling the name, because it is now in court.
Right.
So now it is sub judice.
Right.
Properly what you could say sub judice, yes.
Right. And what I have seen is that we have all these allegations for so many years before this allegation comes up.
Yes.
And nothing has been done with all these allegations, which was before this one. Nothing, they still linger and they're still somewhere in a desk or in a drawer or under the carpet or wherever. And it drives me to the point where I have to wonder, if there's any form of contamination within the DPP office.
There's certainly a sense of injustice, because I get what you're saying. I'm not going to point to any examples, but I do feel that there is the prosecutorial policy and the way that priority is assigned to certain matters to ensure allegations are brought to prosecution need to be looked at. How we achieve that in a society without trying to control the director's office is a discussion for constitutional reform. And as I said, different countries have come up with different solutions. In America, you actually elect a prosecutor, the chief prosecutor, the DPP, in some cities. And that's the way they deal with it, so that they allow an electorate to deal with it. That's a strange system to us. In England, you have a prosecutorial review board that is appointed by the JLSC, I believe, in England, to review decisions of the DPP and to point out to him when he's going wrong and make that public, and proceedings could even be started against the CPS or the chief prosecutor in England if something goes wrong. So it may very well be that we have to look at that issue, because we don't want the DPP turning into a constitutional dictator. We don't want that happening, and that has to be dealt with. But just to say that people in the country must also understand that they, without the DPP, can institute prosecutions, criminal prosecutions. You can bring a private prosecution. That's a different issue for a different time.
Right.
Yes.
Because I always wonder why we have this allegations with Camille Robinson wages with $143,800. I know the figure because because it bothers me to see we have this.
You have the bank statement.
We had this just dangling. We have so many allegations against Foster Cummins. 4.4 million, venture credit union, special branch report involving criminal activities, whether it's gang, drugs, whatever have you. And yet all we keep hearing is investigation. Here come. But once it's UNC or any opponent of the PNM, we have quick conclusion to those matters in terms of putting people before the court. So it leads me to wonder if there is some level of contamination, because the DPP cannot tell me that he is not outfitted with staff to lock up certain people, and when we ask questions about other people, we talking about the workload, and we talking about staffing, and we talking I was looking at
but I have no brief for the DPP office, right? But the DPP can only act based on the evidence that is provided to him by the police. The DPP has no investigative power, except in certain instances, but not generally, right? I think when it comes to a president, the DPP can initiate, but apart from that, the DPP has no investigative power. The DPP can't send any prosecutor out to go and interview witnesses and things to bill a file. It depends on the police service. So if the police service bring a file where someone is accused of putting a set of cash in a bank account, I'm not talking about anybody specifically, but they didn't go and get the statement from the bank to tie up both ends, and the DPP requested and the police dragging their foot. It's not the DPP fault per se. It is the police service, and that is why it is important that you have an independent police service. And that is a symptom of this dictatorial government prioritizing political prosecutions as opposed to having a proper police service doing their job. That is the problem, because they have resourced the police service to go after certain politicians who are against them, but don't allow and don't resource the police to do the investigations to the benefit of the country, and that is a problem.
But isn't the DPP answerable to us as citizens when we ask questions to have answers? And I want to tell you why I say that. I remember a case recently where Advi Balgobin had to go to judicial review for the DPP to answer some questions in relation to the same Nelson matter, when the DPP said that he, in some conference, some police informed him about instructions they get from Arwari allegedly and all that kind of thing. So why if questions are asked to the DPP in relation to any matter, whether it be the 143,800 or any other matter, isn't the DPP obligated to answer to the people of this country in terms of putting the information out there? Because how would we know if the police commissioner is at fault? How would we know if there is the file have been sent back to the police for further investigation? How would we know when we cannot get answers, or we have to go to judicial review in order to get answers from a public servant who we pay?
I agree with. I think the DPP is answerable as a matter of transparency to the public. May not be that he's answerable legally, because we don't have statute or law to say that the DPP must answer every question brought to them, and then there are certain exemptions under the FOI Act which mean that he may not have to give the information, and for good reasons, because a matter may be pending and he can't be given. I could be under investigation and I want to know what the police have against me, right, to go and hide evidence. So I might file a FOI against the DPP, say, well, let me see the file. You don't want the DPP giving up file to prejudice an investigation. So as with all things, there must be proportionality and there must be a balance in the way you craft policy. Today in opposition, tomorrow in government. Today you might be the subject of a charge, a wrong allegation, but tomorrow you maybe want to prosecute an allegation, right? So therefore you have to have balance. But I agree, as a matter of transparency, certainly the DPP should give full and transparent statements on matters that are age gone, that are long gone, and that the population is asking, well, what? The famous one is the Clico. We had a big commission of inquiry, millions of dollars spent. The commissioner died. He said that certain men flew too close to the sun. Was it Greek? I forgot. He called them something. He flew too close to the sun and he died. Greek mythology. Right? Yeah. Greek mythology, right? And that's a serious thing. Making very, very serious allegations, or seems Icarus, yes, called certain people Icarus. That's a serious indictment, right? And that report is just languishing secretly somewhere in the DPP office for the last 7 years, 8 years now, and no action, no prosecution taken. Is it? And you need some expertise to tell you what the commission of inquiry, which was staffed with experts, may or may not have told you. Come out and make a statement. You have received the report, there is no evidence, or you have received the report and there is evidence. Who are you protecting? And of course the Prime Minister is ever too happy to get a letter from the DPP to say, I'm not going to disclose the report. After 7 years, that is madness. The first thing the next government must do, if they get into government, is to release that report, because the DPP has had it long enough. It is taxpayers' money that paid for that, millions of dollars, about billions of dollars being potentially stolen. But we don't know, we don't have the report. That can't be right.
Well, on the next occasion, my brother, I want us to get into a little bit on the next occasion, because I see time is almost out. On the next occasion, we want to look at some of the, if it permits you within your profession, we want to look at the whole scenario with well, not the whole scenario, but we want to look at in depth to a point in the Nelson matter where we have government officials working for the state and at the same time working for Nelson.
I see. Okay.
So we want to kind of like examine
conflict of interest.
If there's a conflict of interest,
something this government knows nothing about. Right. Conflict of interest.
So we want to look at that. We want to look at even the Tacklalsingh issue with the car and Alwari, and at the same time venturing into meetings allegedly with Nelson, the whole sawfoot, so to speak. So I saying it up front so you could look into it and so on, and let us see how we could give the public a little clearer understanding as to what
the whole sordid affair,
right, what is really happening, and why it is of utmost importance that they play a role in defending this naughty behavior.
Yes. Well, I think I don't mind coming on, because it's been explained by many bright attorneys in the United National Congress, Mr. Dinesh Rambali, Mr. Saddam Hussein, Mr. Sean Sobers, I think Ms. Janti Lachmidyal came on this program, also explained it thoroughly, far better. Perhaps all of them have done it far better than I could have. But nevertheless, I will try to come on the show and give my own explanation and my own view on it, and what I think are some of the more salient issues. One of the issues I really took is, one of the issues I think that was very important, is the willingness of the Attorney General, the then Attorney General, and those who knew about the agreement to enter into an agreement to hide something from Parliament. That is craziness, absolute craziness of the highest order, and I think that's something we really need to look at.
And the next thing that I want to look at, which really play on my mind, is how these two senior counsels, if I should call them that, I mean, I'm not asking you to say that, but I say that.
Yeah, we have to call them that for now.
Well, right. So, you could call them that. But
you have freedom of speech, Victor.
Right.
As long as you don't say anything obscene, you can call them what you want.
These two men, who, I mean, should really hold that name, senior counsel, and have the juniors aspiring to be like them, which I hope it are no junior who want to be like them. Because if you were senior and you could give these advice according to Alwari says so, not me, give he this kind of advice, which is contrary to law and order in this country, then I really want to know if there is anything that the Law Association could do, or who needs to do it to remove the senior from these men names.
Yeah. Well, that may have to be done by legislation or something like that. But I want to say something. Don't necessarily focus on the senior counsel, right? Lawyers on the whole, and I have said this before, lawyers on the whole have a wider duty to society. Regardless because if you are negligent as a lawyer, it doesn't matter if you're junior or senior, you have consequences to face. You could be out of law school 1 hour, or you could be out of law school 100 years. And if you are negligent, you have to answer to the court, to the disciplinary committee, and to potentially a lawsuit, right? The legal profession comes from very, I don't think even lawyers understand. The legal profession comes from very sacred origins, and it actually comes out of religious institutions. It was meant to protect ethics. That's the first law, ethics. And then we moved on to statute and common law and all those things. That is where the legal profession comes from. And that's why we have a code of ethics. And that is why we understand in our oath to protect the population and to vindicate and to uphold the rule of law.
Hold up.
And when I said code of ethics, Victor, when I said code of ethics, I saw your face light up.
You see, that code of ethics, tell me you have a code of ethics. Tell me those 1 or 2 lawyers who have a code of ethics. Listen, man.
The legal profession.
Wait. We're going to draw story here right now. Because let me tell you why. I can't see a law association who voted for Amor. Who voted for Amor and talk about he's a good boy. What happened to the code of ethics there?
Well, you do.
All right.
You have a church
But I just thought I had to put in that.
You might get vexed with the pastor, but you don't stop coming to church, right? That's the saying of a famous politician, right? So you might be vexed with the law association and lawyers. They made a bad decision, but so did the population when we put the PNM in the government. But we're not ready to abandon the population, and so you're not ready to abandon the law association, right? Or lawyers. And I want to be clear, the law association is different to the lawyers. Yeah. There are hundreds, I think thousands of lawyers in the country. The law association is made up of about 15 lawyers in the executive, which is supposed to represent the wider views. So there's a difference, right?
I just want to see the list of them who vote.
Well, okay.
And then I go tell you straight who I don't think nothing about.
Myself, Ms. Renuka Rambajan, several other brave lawyers went there. We went into the Lions Den. We made our case. We went up against a sitting attorney general. We went up against a government that could shell out briefs tomorrow. Yeah. They could make hundreds of lawyers millionaires or make them paupers. We went up against that, and the vote was very close. I think it was only separated by about 50. So it says something that so many, especially young, that's why I have a lot of confidence in the legal profession. People might disagree with me. Maybe not the older ones, but so many young, brave lawyers stood up and put their name on that petition. And even when you had a certain lady who was in trouble for receiving money from the Minister of Finance, right? Putting up everybody's name and posting, and then you had comments, look at the names. I didn't know in this country I had to be ashamed of my name. My name is Tacklalsingh. I have no shame about that.
Correct.
Right? No shame. I will make you call my name properly if I have to.
Yeah.
Right? So I have no problem in putting my name once you believe in something, and you shouldn't be afraid of it. But they vilified us for that. Yet we went down into that battlefield. We fought. We lost, but we made our point, and we acquitted ourselves commendably. And I want to praise my team who went and supported and did what we had to do. And you see, that is the thing. You might lose battles, but you will win the war one day. Mm-hmm. You will win the war. So I have confidence that we will save the legal profession, and we will save this country eventually.
So I want to thank Attorney at Law Kiel Tacklalsingh for his faith in his comrades. Not those who voted and talk about good boy, and not them. Not them I'm talking about. The juniors and those who stood out and stood up against the behavior of the Attorney General, which is very much shameful in this country, which makes our country a laughingstock to the international community. And from where I sit, I think that the Attorney General have no right sitting in that chair, just as Keith Rowley as the Prime Minister, just as Hines as the Minister of National Security, just as the President, and just as the Chief Justice. That's my position. But nevertheless, it is what it is. Trinidad and Tobago, you getting the opportunity to stand together, to stand united. You getting the opportunity to revamp and to bring back democracy in this country. You getting the opportunity under the United National Congress to do all of that. And as I said before, I am not asking you to become a UNC member. I am not asking you to become a UNC supporter. I am asking you to be patriots of this country and to stand for what is right and forbid what is wrong by any government. Yes, any government. So I want to tell you thanks for indulging us in the privacy of your home. I really am thankful to Attorney at Law Kiel Tacklalsingh for taking time off from his busy schedule and from even making an extra dollar, because you know the way things going these days is every minute somebody calling, they have a job. Because under this government, I think this government has given lawyers plenty work. The unfortunate thing about that is that there's a handful that make the millions, that do nothing and make the millions. And I just thought I should say this before I go. I remember the same Nelson give one government opinion and then come back and give an next government an next opinion to condemn the same opinion that he gave before. So what I just said, he said Malcolm Jones is accountable and come back and give our opinion to this government that it didn't make sense. But anyhow, this is what it is. So we want to tell you, we want to say a special thank you tonight, and we want to tell Archie thanks for all the hard work that he continued to do. Yeah, this Archie sitting here, right? I want to make it clear. And remember, I asked a question earlier on, Mr. 3D man, Dunce Domandotish. I don't know who that is, the National Security Minister. And I asked a question, and I will leave you with this note. I ask you, Mr. National Security, if you know who is the strong, stocky dreadlocks who the two boys identify before they lose their life. A question I'm asking, and I'm asking this question for my wife. So if you have the answer, you can let me know. I appreciate that. Any closing words, my brother?
No, I continue to tell the people of this population, fight for your rights, stand up, speak out, do what you have to do, protect our independent institutions, protect the rule of law, and I suppose join Mr. Roberts when he calls for his demonstration.
Thank you very much, Attorney. Thank you, Trinidad and Tobago. Good night.
Just remind people about your launch on Thursday.
Actually, the show gets so interested that I even forget the office will open Thursday. So we invited everybody to the launch of the Labrick Constituency Office in Palo Seco. It's on the 10th Thursday at 6:30 p.m. And be reminded that you all are invited. The Honorable Leader will give the feature address. So you all are welcome to come in your numbers. And when you come in, I will set up, I'll put a little bowl, a little contribution bowl I'll put outside. You could put as much as $1 inside that bowl, and we'll tell you what that dollar is for after you put it. So remember, it's all happening Thursday. Actually, we have DouglAR Politics tomorrow.
DouglAR Politics 7:30 tomorrow, and we have midweek press conference at 11 o'clock.
Right.
Where Attorney MP Dinesh Rambali and Senator David Nakid will be on that press conference.
Right, so remember, it's all happening. It's an action-packed week. We start with DouglAR Politics some more. We have press conference at 11:30, Archie?
I think it's 11.
11:30, I think.
Right.
11:30.
Then, of course, Thursday we have the launch at the office in Palo Seco. On Friday, we'll be right back here on the program. On Saturday, at DouglAR Politics again. Sunday morning, you have press conference. Monday, you have Monday Night Forum. And the list continue. Stay blessed, stay safe. We out of here.
Let us stand together. Let us stand together.
Cry from the ghetto, and the way on your feet like you care about somebody now. Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them, no, we got to try. Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them, no, we got to try.
So why we allow this administration to erode our democracy? This is a democratic society, and therefore every creed and race must find an equal place.
Yeah, Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them, no, we got to try. Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them, no, we got to try.
So I am calling on every youth. I am calling on every citizen. Let us unite and save Trinidad and Tobago. For far too long we have been exploited. For far too long we have been neglected. The time has come where we must stand united in order to save our country. Yes, my brothers and my sisters.
Yeah, Victor vibes, if you want to see a better life, yeah, share the light. When the youth them, no, we got to try.